readers. My name is Greg and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky. I wanted to talk today about a collection of short stories I read recently by Zane Grey. Zane Grey, better known for his novels, particularly Riders of the Purple Sage and The Rainbow Trail, and so many others. But he also was a prolific writer of short stories. I read a collection called The Ranger and Other Stories. These stories were originally written between 1926 and 1930 and collected by Harper's in 1960, the first time published together in book form. So 1926, almost 100 years ago, and remember, Zane Grey was writing historical fiction at the time. He was writing in the 1920s when he wrote these short stories about the approximately 1880s. He doesn't really put dates on them, but we're looking at the kind of the traditional American West setting. So we're looking at the 1870s, 1880s. So he's already writing fiction about a time that took place 50 years earlier. He was born, I believe, in 1872, so a time that he would have a hard time remembering or experiencing. So he's already writing historical fiction, and he's writing it 100 years ago. So we're looking at someone who wrote 100 years ago about stories that are set 50 years before that. And that all is important as we consider the context that these stories are written in. It's just something to keep in mind as we read classics. Sometimes we're really good at forgiving authors for living in the time in which they lived, and sometimes we aren't. So this is just something to remember. This is Zane Grey writing in the 1920s about the 1880s, and we're looking at it from 2025. That said, these are fantastic stories. I love them. The Ranger is the first one, and I think, even though it's the title, The Ranger and Other Stories, I think it's the weakest of the four. It's about a Texas Ranger who goes into Mexico to rescue the daughter of a large ranch owner who has been kidnapped, and there's a lot of drinking and a lot of shooting, and it's a good adventure story, but to me it wasn't the most interesting. It was good. It was good. I'm glad I read it, but not the best thing in the collection. The second story is Canyon Walls, which I really liked a lot, about a cowboy named Smoke Ballou. We don't really know a lot about his background other than he has done at least some cattle rustling, and he's kind of trying to get himself back on track, trying to escape that life, and he ends up riding into northern Arizona, southern Utah, and finding a Mormon woman with a teenage daughter in this community called Canyon Walls, and she's widowed, and he moves in onto the ranch to help really build out the ranch. There hasn't been somebody to do the extra hard work. The two women have been keeping things up as best they can, but there are a lot of acres, a lot of possibilities, and so Smoke Ballou, who uses a different name because he can't be known by that name because, cattle rustling. And it's a really fascinating story, focusing some on the Mormon culture, particularly as the daughter is starting to do more serious dating, courting. I don't know what the right word to use there is. we would say dating. That's not the word that they used in the 1920s or the 1880s for that matter. But some interesting things about Mormon culture and Mormon social life, without getting into the religion or theology of Mormons, really just the social, cultural side of Mormons. And that's a really good story. It has I love the way it ended. It all came together really nicely. The third story is Avalanche, which was my favorite of the four, about two brothers who fall in love with the same woman, and how they both are supposed to go to the dance with her, and how they end up fighting, and then they end up trying to reconcile, and there's an avalanche. I'll say that. It's a real live actual, rocks coming down avalanche. And I love the way Zane Grey painted these brothers and their relationship, and even how through very emotional strain, how they continue to relate to each other. I thought it was just really well done all around, with another great ending. And just, again, my favorite of the collection. The fourth one is called From Missouri. It's about a school teacher who comes out from Missouri to a ranch. It's in Arizona? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. She comes out west to someplace new, and has been, shall we say, tricked? I don't know if that's the right word. Hornswoggled? Maybe I'll use that word just because it's a fun word to say. Hornswoggled. Try it. Hornswoggled. Anyway, she comes out. There is a small ranching community. There are children. They do need a school and a school teacher, but there wasn't really a job opening. Some of the cowboys had placed an ad and had written, and the woman who's going to teach school just ends up showing up one day, and it's a good story. Again, if I'm ranking them, the Avalanche was my favorite, then Canyon Walls, then From Missouri, and finally The Ranger. All of these are good stories. They are completely standalone stories. They were published independently and collected, but there's nothing that ties them together. They're just four independent stories, fairly long stories. They are in some places described as not novellas but novelettes. They're just long short stories. I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed the collection. I like Zane Grey's writing, and I hope that you have a chance to read some of these, or some other Zane Grey, or some other Western short stories, or whatever fits your needs right now. Thank you so much for tuning in today and for watching this video and supporting this still new channel. And until next time, my name is Greg. This is Ghost Readers in the Sky. Keep on reading.